A lot of you have been asking me, how can I manage my anger better? How can I control my emotions rather than having my emotions control me? I believe that's a great question because it's something a lot of people struggle with, whether they do it subconsciously or consciously. But usually, as the saying goes, anybody that's capable of angering you becomes your master. As always, I'm Edison.
Yo, what's up? It's Darren.
And we are the founders of Brawn Lifestyle. We would not talk about anything that we personally don't have any experience with. So without further ado, let's jump right into it. Darren, let me ask you this. From your perspective, what do you believe is one of the most important things in terms of managing anger? And have you ever had a situation where you were so angry that you acted out of character and later regretted it?
A lot of times where I used to get angry and acted out of character and regretted it. There's little ones where, let's say I'm irritated throughout the day, I had a stressful day at work, and I'm driving, and then like my fiance would say something to me, then out of nowhere, like I can like snap on her, then I feel bad because I just see like she wanted to do something like happy and she was having fun, and I just snapped on her for no reason and just ruined her day. I'm pretty sure a lot of you guys can relate to that, but so to answer your question, I think one of the biggest ones is to identify your triggers, man. Identify things in life that can bring this irritability and bring this anger out of you.
A lot of us, we are in a situation in which we don't know exactly what triggers us because we don't take the time out to actually figure out more about ourselves and what's going on with us psychologically. And a lot of times there's often truth in your overall emotional state that there is something that's going to trigger you. You know, whether it's a certain joke, whether it's a certain way someone talks about you, a certain way someone talks to you, or even if someone looks at you. Whenever you do find yourself in a situation where you're upset, try this for a change. Make notation of what caused your anger and frustration. Now, over time, you'll begin to recognize patterns which will help you identify what your triggers are. And at the end of the day, you have to tell yourself and remind yourself that you choose to be angry. Being in a state of anger, being in a state of emotional distress is your own choice. You choose how you're going to perceive a situation that occurs in life. So you can be nihilistic in your own mental state based off of the way you perceive things. So for example, if you perceive a certain situation as something that's going to anger you, then the likeliness of you being capable of going through that situation again and being happy is rather minimal. Also, if you associate yourself as somebody who's a naturally angry person, you're going to find it's a lot harder for you to fix that because you're associating yourself with somebody. But in reality, who defined you? In reality, nobody was ever born angry. You make that decision on your own. You make those distinctions on your own. But relatively speaking, if you look at a psychological standpoint, there are other things that can contribute to someone's emotional state being rather altered in a more angry positioning, such as damage to the temporal lobes. Usually damage to the left side is more likely to cause states of anger, depression, and overreactivity.
If you didn't like suffer like actual like brain damage that ruins the function of your brain and the chemical balance of your brain, 100% of the time, the emotions that you feel are controllable and you are giving into that. So there's ways you can go about overcoming this and learning how to control your emotions or work hand in hand with your emotions rather than let your emotions control you. Anger is a form of communication. It creates a psychological reaction to tell you that something is wrong. If you acknowledge in your own body what happens and why it happens and why you're getting irritated, then you're one step closer to controlling that emotion. If you, like what you said, identifying the triggers. So if you acknowledge this and you identify your triggers, then you can know that this is going to happen. You're going to feel some type of way, and you can now revert and change the course of that direction.
Do you mind unpacking that a little bit? Because some people are going to be like, oh, how's anger a form of communication if it hurts me? Or how is anger a form of communication if I just end up lashing out on somebody? Can you explain the importance of utilizing anger in order to be rather beneficial as opposed to detrimental?
Let's say you smash your hand into a wall. The neurons are going to trigger, your nerve endings are going to trigger, send a signal to your brain, tell you, hey, I'm in pain, this fucking hurts, move your hand. So when you are getting angry and you're getting irritated at something, that's your brain telling you, hey, something is triggering some type of past trauma or anything to irritate you. And if you can identify and you're like, hey, water scares me, I hate water, and I get triggered and get angry when water comes, you can try to identify, okay, water's here. I'm going to get angry. Let me move on to some techniques to lower my anger. Let me control my breathing. Let me take a moment and disassociate myself from reality and focus on controlling myself and becoming calm. So that's how you can use anger as a form of communication to divert a negative situation into something more positive. So now instead of getting triggered at water and going on a rampage, you can now calmly divert and walk around that water, or even pick it up and drink it.
Because you've acknowledged it.
Yeah.
You know? It's like someone having a fear of something, and as a way of getting over their fear, they expose themselves to it.
Yeah, exactly.
Now, the thing is, and I'm glad you said that, is exposing yourself to something that you know would typically cause you to be impatient, cause you to be angry, cause you to be fearful, would ultimately result in you benefiting and learning to grow from it, because you understand that those certain situations or those certain things ultimately can have a negative impact on you. And if it is a situation like, as you mentioned, utilizing it to your advantage, you know, utilizing it as, okay, I've acknowledged what triggers me. Now let me change my association of it. Let me change how I approach my triggers. Let me change how I approach a certain situation that's ultimately going to make me angry if I don't do anything about it.
Yeah.
It's about reframing at the end of the day. When you reframe something, you're going from changing your perspective entirely. One thing that causes a lot of people to get angry is saying certain things in a sense of an argument, such as, oh, you never, or you always. So when they're in an argument, they're like, oh, you never do this for me. Or they'll be like, you always complain. You're always playing this game. Whenever you say certain things like that, what that automatically does is it justifies your anger. And by labeling something as, oh, you never do this or you always do this, your anger will be justifiable, which will only increase your levels of anger. But not only that, saying certain things like that will also alienate the person that you're trying to speak to, because you're trying to make it seem as though, okay, they have nothing that could be fixed. Because of that, they're angering you. Even just saying anything like this never works. As soon as you tell somebody, oh, let's not talk about this now, because whenever we talk about this, this never ends up going well, then what's the likeliness of you guys being able to communicate something and it go well?
Yeah,
None, because you've already said it's never going to go well.
Exactly. When you look at dream boards, you look at that and you're like, I will become this, I will become this, I will get that, I will do this. So you're doing this law of attraction in a way. You're speaking it into existence. So if you're constantly framing everything as, oh, you always piss me off when you do this, you're in the back of your mind, you're subconsciously, it's going to linger around in your brain. Then when you see that person do something like that, you're just going to instantly snap back to that subconscious memory that you have, and you're always going to be angry. If you want to divert certain situations, is reframe instead of you always. Instead, try to think about it in your mind and be like, okay, right now you're doing this. Right now this is happening. Right now, so it doesn't become a habit to always get mad when you see a certain situation happening.
Or also acknowledge how you can contribute to emotional destruction, to where it's like, okay, you're doing this. What contribution did I have in this? What role did I play in this? And also, it also comes when you're talking within yourself. When anything occurs in your life that tempts you to feel angry, that tempts you to feel bitter or upset, rather than saying my life is ruined or my life sucks, try this for a change. When you're in a state of anger, say, listen, this is frustrating, right? But it could have been a whole lot worse. What's currently happening to me right now is frustrating, and I understand that. But this could have been a whole lot worse. No matter what happens to me, I will be okay. This current situation that's occurring in my life is not enough to define me for the rest of my life.
Yeah. I think that's powerful, because when I got into a car accident, I got rear-ended at a red light by a truck going 45 miles an hour. At first, I was pissed. I was like, fuck, like, you just rear-ended my fucking car. My car is broken. And then I wanted to spaz on the guy so bad. But I took a few seconds and I just breathed in my car before I got out. And I was like, okay, at least I'm alive. At least I'm not dying. At least I don't have any major injuries. And then instantly, kind of my anger towards having my car destroyed went away, and I was just more annoyed at the situation than blistered, angry, mad, because I kind of like affirmed to myself, at least I'm alive. I'm grateful that I'm not hurting or I have no bones broken. So that anger kind of subdued, because I turned that anger into something I'm grateful for. So the emotions kind of swapped over.
Take the second to think and actually breathe and collect your thoughts before you react out of anger or out of pity. And a lot of people, They are trying to overcome anger, and they're like,
okay, I always fucking breathe. That's how I'm alive. What the fuck are you talking about? Control your breathing.
and I want you to try this exercise. Whenever you're in a situation where you're angry, take a deep breath in for 4 seconds, you hold it for 4 seconds, and then you exhale for 4 seconds, and you repeat that 4 times. That'll do enough to not only calm you down mentally, but it'll also naturally slow your heart rate down too. Which, if you are in a state of anger, but you want to think logically and reason properly, I would recommend taking these approaches when it comes to your breathing. If you feel like you're quicker to react and you don't have time to breathe in for 5 seconds 10 times, then try the 4-second approach 4 times. And you'll notice yourself in a more calm state, and you'll notice your reaction becomes a lot better. You'll approach the situation with more of a resolutional approach as opposed to an overall nihilistic, mentally destructive approach. What do you think is one of the things that cause people to get angry? Do you think that there is currently an issue with society where nowadays words trigger them so much that they can't get the words that somebody said out of their mind?
Yeah, so before I get into this, I'll tell a little backstory, right? So a lot of people, they like to say that they're open-minded, but in reality, they're not. They're only open-minded to their views. So back in high school, I used to love triggering people. What I would do is find out what is the major opposing idea? What is the major opposing philosophy? And I would be like, okay, so for example, it was during the Hillary Clinton, Donald Trump presidency run, right? So everyone was voting or wanting to have Hillary Clinton. And so out of nowhere, I was like, let me just fuck with these people. And I just started arguing all of them like, no, Donald Trump. Yeah, Donald Trump is good. His policies are this. That will do this and this. And everyone got so triggered and so mad, even though they were supposedly open-minded people. But yet they weren't open-minded to an opposing view from their own. So I think the biggest thing that gets people angry, and a way you can avoid it, is by actually being open to other ideas and views. A lot of people have a high ego and they hold on to their values. They hold on to their views. And if you oppose those, you just fucking cross the line, bro. So what you have to do is get rid of your ego, be open up, be a sponge to information, kind of like a toddler or a baby. Just be open to other ideas, be open to gathering information, and form a conclusion in your own head. Instead of just holding on to this idea and having your ego and your pride stand on the line, because a lot of people, they'll put their pride before anything else, and that will end up making them get triggered when someone says something or when they do something.
Yeah, if you say something nowadays that doesn't line up with someone's belief, they make you out to be a whole bunch of names. For example, you look at the interview with Andrew Tate and Piers Morgan. Anything Andrew Tate said, Piers Morgan will find a way to come up with something that he can pin Andrew on and try and accuse him of. So if Andrew Tate goes on a podcast with Alex Jones and they have a respectful discussion, and he goes on to Piers Morgan's interview, Piers Morgan is going to be like,
what is your view of Alex Jones?
I think that Alex Jones is a sovereign individual who, very much like the rabid left, deserves a chance to speak on his points of view. I think that the truth on issues is usually somewhere in the middle between two extremes. And
So you think Sandy Hook was staged?
I don't know anything about Sandy Hook.
Really? You know he's just been sued by the families for millions and millions.
I have no idea.
You don't know anything about it?
No.
So why would you support someone in public when you know nothing about the most infamous
When
thing
have I
attached to
supported
it?
him in public?
You have supported him in public.
I've been on his podcast.
Yeah, but you said nice things about him.
and Andrew Tate said, I respect anybody who gives me respect. And then Piers Morgan twisted that and said,
So if Adolf Hitler showed you respect, you'd respect him back.
That's a stupid question, Piers.
not.
No, if in 1931 I was walking through Germany and a man come up to me and said, sorry for bumping into you, I'd say, sorry, no problem, mate. I'd show respect back.
You literally just said if somebody respects you, you respect them back.
I say if somebody...
I mean, you look at that as an example, but at the end of the day, a lot of people are suspects of that type of mentality, where if your vision don't line up with their vision, they're going to try and do anything in their ability to twist the meaning of your words in order to make you more demonized. So that way they can say, oh, you see, there is always something wrong with you. My vision, my beliefs are not the ones that are construed and messed up. It's your beliefs that are messed up because you said that you don't like it when it rains. I said I love it when it rains. So that means that you don't like vegetation. You don't like our crops growing properly. And that means that you believe that all animals should be killed.
I want you guys to think, how many times have you been mad because 1, your mom said something to you that you didn't like. 2, your friend said something to you that you didn't like. 3, your dad said something to you that you didn't like. Your teacher or some random fuck on the internet. Most chances are you got fucking pissed off by one of those people. So I need you to take a look at yourself and be like, okay, I'm getting mad. It's because I put my pride above everything else and I'm not open to other ideas or views.
If somebody's opinion is enough to piss you off, take a second to self-evaluate and say, why the fuck do I care about what somebody else's opinion is? People will get cut off in traffic. They're like, wow, this fucking asshole, they're blaring their horn. And the next thing you know, for the next hour, 2 hours, they're thinking about the situation that occurred, which truly gives credence to the saying that goes, anybody that is capable of angering you has full control over you.
Yeah.
They become your master. Anything they say or do from that point on would be enough to trigger an emotional response out of you. And if somebody is capable of triggering an emotional response out of you, you do not have fucking full control over your mind. They have full fucking control over your mind, whether you agree or you disagree.
Don't take shit personally.
Yeah.
Because you don't take shit personally, if your boss comes up to you and be like, hey, you've been slacking off at work. I need you to pick up the pace. And then he walks away. A lot of people are going to be like, what the fuck does that fucker know? I'm here for fucking 8 hours of the day. And it's like, okay, well, don't take that shit personally. He's a fucking boss, but his boss probably told him that his store's number are low. So he's going around doing his job and telling you, hey, you need to pick up the pace. It's not personal. He's just fucking saying it because he has to. Or don't take it personally when some random fucking dude's walking down the street and he's just having a bad day, or he's fucking psycho and he just looks at you and goes, you're an ugly fat fuck. And he continues walking. And then your whole day is ruined because you're like, why the fuck is he calling me an ugly fat fuck? Just don't take it personally. That guy has no fucking meaning in your life. Just keep on fucking walking.
Don't give people meaning that don't fucking have significance to your life. If their level of significance in your life is very marginal because you don't even fucking know the person, why are you going to give them the full ability to tap into your emotional state, flip the switch, and piss you off? That's your decision at the end of the day. Tell yourself, I have full control over my emotions. It is my choice to be upset. This current situation, I can choose to be angry, or I can choose to not let it affect me. Tell yourself, my emotional response to this situation is not required for me. I don't have to get upset by this. I don't have to get emotional because of this. My choice is to be happy. My choice is to ignore this motherfucker. Darren's approach, when it came to debates, he would listen to what somebody was telling him. And if you missed that episode, I'll link it to this video. But he will listen to whatever somebody is telling him or whatever somebody's lashing out at him. And mentally, in his mind, he's telling himself, these people don't matter. What they're saying doesn't matter. These people are nothing. They don't matter to me. So why do I give a fuck about what they think? And that mindset alone is enough to build a level of stoicism and resiliency necessary in order for you to not only get your point across, but be able to reason properly in your mind. So that way you don't act out of anger and just act out in an emotional huff, which ultimately actually makes more people lose respect for you, not make more people gain respect for you.
And then there's one thing I want to touch up on too a little bit that you said was don't let your anger or emotions control you. Instead, be in control of your emotion. So what you need to do is realize that. So I need you to remember that anger is your friend. Anger is going to tell you whether your boundaries have been crossed or that something is bothering you or something is wrong. Anger must not be ignored. A lot of people have a tendency to ignore and bottle up their emotions. You must not ignore your anger. Emotions occur within your body, and you are not your emotions. Think of emotions as friends that show up to your house unannounced. And most of the time, you're going to be pretty pissed off. They're like, why are you at my house without me knowing? But 9 times out of 10, they're showing up because they have something important to tell you. Otherwise, they wouldn't have came to your house unannounced.
When you feel angry, a lot of times people are like, fuck, I hate this feeling. I don't like being angry. Oh, it's your fucking fault I'm angry. But they don't stop and think, what is my body trying to tell me?
Yeah.
What is my mind trying to tell me by allowing me to emotionally react to this? Most importantly, what am I trying to tell myself by choosing to let this anger me? Stop blaming other people. Stop saying they're the reason you're upset. Truth is, you wouldn't have been upset if you had more control over your emotional state, because a lot of people allow their negative emotional state to live rent-free in their head. As soon as someone angers them, as soon as someone sees something that's going to trigger them, they allow themselves to process it. They know they're going to emotionally react in a negative format. So what they do is they constantly dwell on that fucking shit that pissed them off an hour ago or a couple of days ago.
Yeah.
On Instagram, you'll see someone try and express their anger in the comments. Let me ask you this. Do you get more positive comments or negative comments on an Instagram post when people agree or disagree with you? You get negatives. Because truth is, if someone agrees with your post, they're going to share it. They're going to like it. They're going to save it.
Yeah, okay, I see.
If someone disagrees with your post, they're just going to fucking comment how much they hated your post, how much you fucking pissed them off, how wrong you are because your beliefs don't match up with what they've been taught ever since they were in fucking school. And because your beliefs don't match up with what they've been taught, they hate you now. You're a piece of shit person. And they act like your comments are going to go so fucking far.
Yeah.
Like, your comments don't mean shit. You took the time to type all of that. How the fuck do you feel that you wasted valuable time that you could have fucking invested into yourself just to let somebody know who doesn't give any fucks about you that they pissed you off?
Yeah, there's a saying that I've heard, and I'm pretty sure 95% of Americans have heard their whole life. And it's sticks and stones may break my bones, but words will never bring me down. Why are you getting fucking pissed off when someone says some shit to you?
Yeah.
Like, words are fucking words. The only way words hurt is if it's written down in a fucking phone book and you get slapped in the back of the head. There's no fucking point of getting mad and ruining your whole fucking day over what someone else has said. Don't take everything personally and fucking move on with your life. They're just words.
Before you act out of anger, play out the outcome in your head. What would happen to your relationship, your goals, your loved ones? Think about the immediate and long-term effects. If you act out of anger and you say things you don't mean, or you say things that you didn't mean to say, but in the heat of the moment, they just came out of your mouth, think about how that's going to affect your relationship with your significant other, how that's going to affect your business, your goals, your career, your loved ones, your children in the long term. Because you may forget about it, or you may be like, oh, well, that was just a one-time thing. It'll never happen again. I'll never say that again. I didn't mean to say that. But although you are saying that, the person who you said that to, or the person that you acted out to, will never forget that you did that. And for as long as they're around you, and for as long as you live around them, they would always hold on to that negative experience because people are wired that way. For example, a marriage counselor was with a husband and a wife. The husband had done some things and the wife was saying the relationship was ruined. The relationship was broken. There was nothing they can do to salvage it. So what ends up happening, and it was because of anger. It was because the husband was always acting out in anger. And the marriage counselor ended up finding a way to bring her husband back to his original previous self, where he was always happy again, or he was always full of joy and full of energy. And now guess what happens to the marriage?
It's fixed.
No.
Oh, shit.
It broke apart. You know why? Because when that marriage counselor met with them again and asked why the marriage went south, the wife said it was because no matter what he did, she constantly reminded herself of the negative shit that he did. Which means that even though you would change as a person, people will always remember you for the negative shit that you did, the negative shit that you said. So at that very point, I'm not asking you to walk on eggshells for the rest of your fucking life, but have some fucking control over your emotions so you don't actually say stupid shit that can affect your relationship or your goals long term.
One of the biggest issues that many men and possibly women, but I know this is more common in men, is they tend to stick to the idea that men can't feel emotions. And I think that's kind of wrong. So what they do is they ignore these emotions and they push them back and they push them back and they push them back. And it keeps bottling and bottling up. And the pressure keeps on building until it pops and bursts everywhere. And you just become this fucking giant wrecking ball of anger. So I need you to allow yourself to feel every emotion. You have to allow yourself to feel angry. You have to allow yourself to feel sadness. Emotions are normal. They're there to tell you something. They're a form of communication. And what you need to do is once you get further of understanding why you're feeling these emotions and how these emotions are coming up, you get a better understanding of yourself. Never turn your back on these emotions and try to force them back. Because when you turn your back on your emotions, you're turning your back on yourself. And that is the biggest mistake you will ever make.
That's a very powerful statement you make, and it's how much control do you want to have over yourself? It's doing this. It's coming to the realization of if you wish to pursue a kind, loving relationship with your significant other, your children, whatever the case may be, jot down what that vision looks like. Then ask yourself, is my current behavior and temperament going to get me what I've envisioned? So jot down what that vision of a kind, loving relationship with your significant other and children or family and business partners look like. And then ask yourself, is my current behavior and temperament going to get me what I've envisioned? Or is it going to ultimately bring me to my downfall? And be real with yourself. Like Darren said, put your ego outside the fucking door, get real with yourself, put your pride aside, and actually ask yourself, how is my emotional response to certain situations? And is my emotional response something that could be worked on if I fucking tried for once? I want a loving, lasting relationship with my family. I want a loving, lasting relationship with my business partners and my employees. I'm not going to put myself in a position where my employees, my business partner, my family, my significant other, whatever the case may be, ever has to question my mental state. And I like what you said when it came down to the overall idea that men need to stop thinking that they can't express themselves, right? Because there is a difference between men thinking they're going to lose their touch with their masculinity because they share a little bit of, because they communicate, right? You don't understand the power of communication. It takes a real man to be fucking capable of communicating how their emotions are and how they feel. Where you do lose your touch with masculinity is when you choose to bottle everything in because you're a fucking man, but then you act out in an emotional huff and you ultimately make yourself look like somebody nobody wants to fucking be around. And a lot of people, they do that because they think that it gives people a sense of fear where people are like, oh, let me not mess with this person. Or in sense of intimidation where they're like, oh, wow, this person just acted out. This person just yelled at me. Let me relax because this person is dangerous. But in reality, all it does is make people realize how fucking pathetic you are, how little you fucking can control your emotions, and then most importantly, how easily triggered you are, which makes people lose respect for you and increases the likeliness that people are going to slowly start to detach themselves from you because you can't fucking learn how to manage your emotions in a sense of, okay, let me see how I can approach this situation that's going to be beneficial towards me and beneficial for everybody that's in this area or in this circumstance as well.
If you do bottle up your emotions and you lash out and you think that makes you feel cool or makes you feel like a fucking dude not to be fucked with, I'm going to tell you right now, like what he said, you're fucking wrong. It just makes you look like a toddler that fucking throws a tantrum and you just sit there and you fucking baby rage and you look like a joke.
I remember seeing my mother and my sister arguing in the kitchen. And for some fucking reason, all I remember was I had a can of like one of those 99-cent tunas and I was eating that before the gym. And I got so pissed off because they were arguing next to me that I got up and I told them to shut the fuck up and I punched a hole into the wall. And then rather than stopping them from arguing, they both turned and looked at me and said, what the fuck is wrong with you? And then I had to live with the thought of, fuck, I should have never punched a hole into that wall. Like, fuck, think about the stress that my mom is under now because of the simple fact that I wanted to be emotional and I wanted to punch a hole into the wall knowing that we weren't in a great financial situation already. And now having to put the thought in her mind of, okay, how am I going to fucking, get the money to fix that? How am I going to explain this to the landlord when we have to move out? And it's certain things like that I didn't think about until at the end. And I didn't realize how much trauma and how much pain and how much fucking distress I put my whole fucking family through until I finally got expelled from school. And I saw my mom in tears. I saw my dad and my mother in disagreement. And I saw my dad and my mother finally come to an agreement about my actions. And I realized, fuck, I disappointed everybody. I didn't just upset one person. I upset everybody. And then that made me realize if I don't do something about myself, I'm not going to end up in the position I want to be. I'm not going to be successful because I realized there's two things in life. You can live with great success or you can live with great excuses. And I wasn't prepared to fucking come up with the excuses to live with. And it wasn't until that moment where I really figured out more about myself. And that's when I took boxing seriously. I became passionate about boxing. My goal was I was going to be obviously, a professional boxer, and I wanted to change the entire landscape of boxing. And then I injured myself. I had a really bad back injury. I ended up with 3-4 herniated discs and even one in my neck. And I was basically immobilized when I was fighting. I couldn't move and I got hit too much. And I was just like, this is not right. And then that's when I found out what was wrong with me. And I had to put a halt to my boxing career. But that was enough to open my eyes and made me realize this is something that I have control over, and I can build myself to become the person I want to become. Another point that I want to bring up in terms of managing your anger is eliminating your expectations. Eliminate all your shoulds. Eliminate your, this person should be like this. Oh, my significant other should have this belief. My significant other should understand this. Because the problem with expectations is when expectations are not met, you end up feeling disappointment. Most times, expectations will never be met because your expectations doesn't line up with what the person's actual value or standards are. So rather than focusing so much on expecting things from people, expecting things from yourself, or expecting things out of certain situations, understand that there is more power in acknowledging where your standards lie and raising your fucking standards. Raise your standards, lower your expectations. When your standards are high and your expectations are low, it's a recipe for success. You would find fulfillment and happiness in what you do. I know you have what it takes to make the impact you want to make. I understand things get hard and you get frustrated often. Ask yourself, do you want to live with success or do you want to live with regret? That choice is entirely yours. Think about your reason why, whether it's your kids, your lifelong dream, your current pain, your current trauma. Imagine having to look your kids in the eyes and tell them you can't put food on their table because you chose to be comfortable. Think about the feeling of dread you'll have when somebody else accomplishes your dreams because you chose to turn your back and run, and they chose to keep coming back. What sense does it make to add regret to your current pain and trauma?
It makes no fucking sense at all. I mentioned this before, but we didn't go into detail into it, is learning the art, the skill of to let shit go. That's very, very important. And people tend to hold on to everything, right? They'll hold on to their boss telling them that they need to work better. They're holding on to their parents saying, hey, you're fucking filthy. You need to clean your room. They're holding on to the fact that teachers said, hey, you failed. You need to start studying more. You're going to be nothing in life or whatever. Like, they tend to hold on to things. They need to learn how to let it go and not let it infect their mind and live in their brain rent-free, like you said. Do you have any like tips on how to let shit go? Because for me, it's fairly simple. It's just you don't think about it. You just don't give a fuck and continue to focus on yourself and growing and not hold on to it, right? So that's how I come across it. But what do you do to let shit go?
Well, it all ties back to what I said, and I'll bundle it up. So whether you're saying no matter what happens to me, I'll be okay, or you're saying I'm frustrated at this moment, but this could have been worse. Or simply if you acknowledge that it's your choice to be angry or to react to something, especially being bitter about something, the likeliness of you reacting starts to shrink a lot. Because when you make it your own choice, try telling yourself this. When someone says something that usually will anger you, say in your mind, it is my choice to react to this. It is my choice to be angry to this, or be angry about this. Am I really going to choose to cause emotional and mental destruction because someone's opinion doesn't line up with my opinion, or somebody said something about me that I didn't think was true, or something about me that I personally didn't like? Are you really going to get upset about that? If it doesn't hold the potential to ultimately ruin your life, why would you ruin your life by choosing to react in a negative state, which can reap negative results? The overall goal is to be the better person. The overall goal is to show that no matter what happens to you, you'll be okay. So you acting out of anger is not you making a power statement. You acting out of anger is not, oh, you show them. You acting out of anger is them showing you that they can control you just by using a simple choice of words or just by doing a simple action. Raise your fucking standards at the end of the day. If you identify what your triggers are and those triggers get brought upon you, raising your standards is going to give you the capability of not only acknowledging that these triggers have arrived, but also knowing that these would usually trigger you, but today they don't. That you choose and you make the fucking decision to not allow your circumstances, your situation, word choices of others negatively affect you and negatively hold an impact on your emotional state. It is your choice. make it your choice, acknowledge that it is your choice, and you will make better decisions.
Yeah, that you hit the nail, man. And I think one of the biggest things too is, right, it's basically like quote unquote cyberbullying. Just turn off the fucking laptop, turn off the computer, put the phone down. Don't worry about it. It's online, right? The art of letting it go, right? Are you going to let what this person said about you, what this person did, bother you and ruin your entire day? I want you to think about this one phrase whenever something happens and it helps you let it go. I am the master of my own destiny, right? When you're fucking pissed and someone pisses you off, are you going to let them control where you end up? Or are you the master of your own destiny and you choose how you will react and you choose where you will end up? You have grit, mental fortitude, and strong willpower. You are the master of your destiny.
It could be a different day, but it's the same, homie. How you look me in my eyes didn't change on me. They done me dirty and I think they left a stain on me. They put the blame on me. So for your time up, go get it now and ain't no telling when.